next to Tom Laird. Funny story. Tom and I have known each other. Well, he's known me since I was in 6th grade. He used to coach basketball against me, and I spent my high school career beating up on his high school team.
That's a fact. That's true. Good job, dude. Oh, yeah. No, please.
Oh, he's going to step.
For the 2 people that are interested in customer service, I got you. I was like 12 or 13 years old, and all the kids in my neighborhood, they wanted to run a race, like a 5K. And I'm like, 13. I'm like, that sounds easy. Let's do that. So some of the kids would like train, whatever that meant. Like they'd run around the cul-de-sac. I really didn't do that. I just waited for everybody. Then we played baseball, kickball when they got done with that. But the day of the race happens, we go to Presque Isle. We're on beach 2. And I'm like, all right, I got this. So the gun goes off and I go out sprinting like an idiot. And I'm like a quarter of the mile. Everybody's behind me. I'm like, I got this. And then all of a sudden, everybody started catching up. I'm dying. I'm out of breath. I ended up pulling my hamstring, staying on the side of the road. My mom had to come find me. There's no cell phones then. So I tell that story, right, in my quick 15 minutes here to waste like 2 minutes of it, because I think that's where we are today when it comes to customer support and when it comes to AI. AI in customer experience is kind of we're in the leading edge of this thing, right? You hear about voice bots. You hear about, how how AI is going to be taking over the customer support range, right? We're just going to talk to these bots. Well, what I'm seeing is there's a lot of people that have been out there sprinting that are now pulling their hamstring. There's a lot of people that are doing this, I think, the right way, which I want to talk to you about today, that are going to finish the race. Their time might not be great, but they're going to get to where they need to be. And then I think there's a lot of people maybe in this room that are watching the race, right? They're saying, that looks hard. I don't know how to train for that. How do I start? Right? And again, when it comes to the customer experience, the contact center, the call center, even if you have 2 people answering phones, hopefully I can give you a little bit of tips of the tools that we're utilizing, the things that I'm seeing, and where things are going, which is pretty awesome. That's me. Went the wrong way.
There you go.
All right, so this is kind of my flex page. So the only thing I really want to call out is, again, I am the CEO of Expedia. We have about 350 employees in EBCO Park. We're all work from home now, so I used to have like 30,000 square feet. We're down to like 4,000. But also we have AutoQA. AutoQA is a full AI startup that I'm going to talk about a little bit here today. Ben Franklin, just as with Aventio, has funded us to the tune of like 140,000. So that's our first kind of seed funding that we've received. And then the other thing, if you like anything that I say, if you're into customer service, we have a podcast. It's called Advice from a Call Center Geek. I think it's the best podcast in the world when it comes to technology, when it comes to what happens if I have an agent that isn't performing, how do I help my customer experience get a little bit better in my company, all that stuff's there. Went the wrong way again. Okay, so here's the questions when I talk on this topic, and normally this is like a 45-minute to an hour talk that I'm trying to jam in here into like 12 minutes now. But these are the questions I know that are out there a lot, especially in the customer service world, is, where do I start? I don't even know what to do. What about the tools that I already just spent all this money on? All of these questions that are kind of like, oh man, like I'm very nervous about how this process even begins. And so hopefully what I can take you through here today is at least a high level of what I think is the right way to build a roadmap when you're talking about your customer support. And again, granted, this might not be for everyone, but even if you have 2 to 3 people in your office that are taking calls, I think there's some things for you here as well. So I guess my finger a little screwed up before you think AI. So this is where I think we are today. Right? And I think this is the really important thing. And when we talked about data at the beginning, right? The number one thing that I would say in the customer support world, that when customers come to me at Expedia and they're like, hey, Tom, we want to get rid of 40% of our agents. We need to use technology and I say, that's great. Let's do that. Right? The first thing is like, all right, you have things integrated, right? You have integrations between your CRM, between all your data sets, between your CCaaS, which is your call center platform, whatever you're doing to make calls. Most of the time, I'm like, well, we don't really have Like, okay, that's a good starting point. The next thing is what no one has, and if you take away one thing from this entire talk, it's to start to get your data and your knowledge in order, right? Your KMS, right? Everything from your FAQs to your SKUs to the time that you're open and closed, everything that you would want, right, to have any type of data that could go customer facing from some type of AI, it's got to have that data. And what we see is no one has it. It's a spreadsheet over here. I keep mine in email. I have a SharePoint. That's Jim. He does that, right? That's every company, right? And that's why when people say, hey, AI is going to take over, especially when it comes to customer support, I say we're not even at the beginning of it yet. So when people say you're falling behind or there's so many people that are running ahead of you, right? This is where you need to be right now. So again, looking at your integrations, right? Especially on the customer service side, making sure you have a robust KMS. There's a lot of tools out there. And I'll tell you what, if I had to start a new company and I may, it would be using AI to help people build out a KMS because the need is so vast out there. Understand what outcomes are really important. In the customer service world, we have multiple outcomes. Do we want customer support and our net promoter scoring and our CSAT to be higher? Do we want our handle time of our agents to be less? What do we want? What is the outcome? Now, normally it's like I want to save money, right? I get that. And there's special tools for that too. So again, I don't have a ton of time to kind of read through all of those, but you have to make sure that we have a little bit of a plan. I guess that's the main thing with this. So this is stuff that nobody that is kind of, I guess, not really in the totally immersed in customer support, we don't talk about. All you guys hear about is chatbots, virtual agents. That's all we have. And that's what we think that AI for customer support is, when there's a vast ecosystem of much more mature tools that we are utilizing, that the industry is utilizing, that goes way beyond a first touch point chatbot from an agent or a customer. So what I would say, when a customer comes to me and says, Tom, we have 10 agents, and we want to build out our AI model and a roadmap, right? This is how we start. I start with the quote unquote more mature tools, right? Nothing here is really mature. It's all AI. More mature meaning our legacy stuff. Like, hey, do you have speech analytics, right? The amount of insights that you can get from customer behaviors, agent behaviors, speech analytics is amazing, and all that's being infused with AI right now. Workforce management. I won't talk about WFI with this group, but workforce management, right, is getting, it's one of the tools in the contact center space when it comes to forecasting of calls, when it comes to staffing of calls, that is just it's amazing what AI is doing to it. So you're starting to use AI with these kind of legacy tools that contact centers or customer support professionals have always utilized. But then we get to the fun stuff. This is the new stuff. This is the stuff that I think is actually having an impact today in customer experience. And they're tools like Agent Assist, right? I'm sitting at my computer, a call comes in. I work for a toy company. We have 10,000 different toys with 30,000 different SKUs. And somebody says, hey, my kid broke a car with a black wheel on it. Like, okay, I don't know where, but we start to hear that, and AI starts to hear that, and it looks through all of our knowledge, and it says, here's the 2 toys that have black wheels, and this is how you fix it, and this is what you need to say, and it instantly comes up for an agent, right? All of this stuff we're utilizing today. It's happening now, right? It's an amazing thing. It's not for everybody, but again, for these massive companies or massive knowledge bases that would be taking an agent forever to kind of look through, that stuff's here now, right? This will then give real-time feedback, real-time coaching, even right after the call. Hey, Jimmy, that was awesome. We made sure that you had empathy on that one because before last call, you were a little bit dry, right? All of these things are starting to now come into play. The other cool things, and I call them ChatGPT. Here's the other thing. Everyone here is talking, and they're not wrong, have talked about ChatGPT. There's a ton of different models, right? The one model that I even prefer to ChatGPT is the Anthropic model. So when you go home, Claude or Sonnet 3.7 is the model that we're utilizing for our internal tools, and for the use cases for customer support. I think for us, we have found that it's much better than ChatGPT, right? So again, kind of keep your mind open on all these different large language models. The next one before this line, and everything below the line is more agent-facing tools, right, is auto-summarization, right? Even if you have a one-person call center, right, you just have somebody sitting at your front desk, right? After that call comes and somebody has a couple questions, right, they have to take notes and they have to put a memo in and they have to put it into your CRM. Well, again, auto summarization will just take exactly what happened on the call, boop, put it right into their CRM or whatever you're using, right into your spreadsheet, however you want to kind of just keep track of that data. And then what we're doing with auto QA. So let me go right to that. So this is our company. In the past, we would have 15 people sitting in a back room that like none of the agents were allowed to go talk to, right? And they would literally score calls. So they would listen to call recordings, right? And they would say, okay, did the agent use the proper greeting? Yes, 5 points. Did they use empathy? Yes, 5 points. Did they use this proper SOP? Yes, 10 points. And they would do that all day long. And we would score in a 300, 400 person call center, we'd score like 2 to 3 calls per agent per week. We called that quality assurance, right? I call that guessing. So we said when ChatGPT came out and when all these models came out, what is the low-hanging fruit of this? What can we do? And quality was what we came up with. So over the last 18 months, we built out a tool for our internal team, not planning on having a sales or having a SaaS model. And when we saw that the 15 agents that we had back there were then no longer needed, now they're still needed. They're on the phones, they're supervising, they're coaching, they're doing human things, but they're not doing that mundane, awful task of listening to call after call after call. When we saw this, we said, man, this is really cool. So again, we take a customer's form. Did the agent control the call? Did they show empathy? Auto QA can then score that and tell it why it scored it like it did. The other cool thing that I think is kind of game breaking in the industry is many of you do after call surveys, right? Or you'll send an email out. How did we do on this, right? We have found that with some advanced prompting, we can now do CSAT, customer satisfaction, and net promoter scoring, prediction scores on every single call that we do, right? So no longer sending that painful email out that only 5% of the people return, and it's only the really pissed off people anyway because they didn't get what they wanted, right? So, which skews all of your data. So now 100% of all of your calls that are scored can have net promoter and CSAT. And again, giving coaching tips on every single call that comes back. So again, as I kind of somewhat run out of time here, but this is kind of where we've been. This is kind of where we've been and where we are now, right? So we have these workforce management and speech analytics. That stuff has kind of been here always, right? We're now looking into kind of the GPT tools or the large language model tools of auto summarization, auto QA where we're scoring quality calls, role playing, right? Having the AI take the place of a supervisor, and that's the tool that we're working on now. Ask about a form. Why did I have a 92 on that form? Well, Janie, you didn't show empathy, and because at this part of the call, you did this, right? And having the AI then, I think my reps are ready for that. I don't know industry-wise if we are, but those are some of the things that we're starting to play with. AI voice modulation is something that is awesome, but it's also a little controversial. There are companies now in the Philippines. There are companies in India. There's a company called Sonus. And Sonus has an AI tool that changes their voice so it sounds like an American voice, right? So that you will call into customer support in India or the Philippines, and by your area code, it will know, hey, this is somebody from Texas. This is somebody from New England. It will even have the tone of their voice or maybe a little bit of a, kind of that dialect of that area. That stuff is happening, right? You probably will start to see that on your outbound spam calls, right? That kind of come through as well. And then this is where we're going, and I'll kind of end on this. Real-time language translation, we would always use a language line, right? I had somebody that would call in and they spoke Mandarin. I have no Mandarin agents in Erie, PA. So what we would do is we'd have a language line that we would call, get a third-party interpreter, handle that. That is now we're doing right now, right, which should probably be on the other sheet, right, of real-time language translation, which is happening with pretty much any language that we have. The smarter predictions and kind of the dashboards is happening. So everybody looks at dashboards for data. Now we're starting to kind of GPT that and start to say questions when I come in like, hey, what was the program that had the highest service level yesterday? What had the lowest net promoter scoring? What agents had the best handle time? Right? I can start to ask these questions and kind of build daily dashboards out based on maybe what a question that a customer had based on all the data that we have. So again, using data that we have, right, from our in our customer support world, asking specific questions and then getting specific answers that may not just come with a regular dashboard. We're starting to see real-time QA. That's where our company's moving to, right? So literally scoring calls as they're happening. So a supervisor can see a call going south. We can do that a little bit with analytics, but as soon as, start to see scores on a specific call, notifications can happen. A supervisor can jump on the line. I think the bottom one too, the AI-driven knowledge tool creation, right? That stuff is I think going to be very important for everybody in this room. And again, like I said, your data, your knowledge is going to be everything as we're moving forward, whether it's for customer support, whether it's for marketing, all of your content creation, all of that stuff needs to start to be thought through. And if you're at least thinking that through in 2025, I don't think you're falling behind. You're kind of just starting to run the race. But again, from a customer support side, there's so much really cool things that are happening. And hopefully we can kind of continue to kind of push the needle here. So last minute or two, any questions? I mean, I know I'll be part of the panel too, but that's kind of a very high level at a very high rate of speed. So
Tom, where does somebody start? Like if they're, I think so many people they know that they need to do something like this. Just from your experience, what's the first step?
If you have nothing at all, then I would start to build, right, your knowledge base and then upload it to a GPT, right? Like if you have zero budget and you want to do something really cool for your customer support agents, right? Upload all of your SOPs, all of the things that you are operating with. Any of the questions, create your own FAQs. Have ChatGPT create your own FAQs. Have Anthropic create your own FAQs. And then create a personal GPT for your company, right? And then have that be kind of the chat bot that you can utilize with your agents to start to ask some of those questions that maybe they don't have the answers to, right? Yes.
So when folks are on hold, there's oftentimes they're being recorded, and they don't know that. It seems like as an agent, I would want to know their temperature prior to getting them. Do you have that set up that helps them?
So the cool thing, kind of what you're talking about too, is we do a lot we would have a company that comes to us and says, hey, Tom, we want to do an 80-30 SLA, meaning we want 80% of our calls answered within 30 seconds or less. And I say, great, that'll be 32 agents that you're going to need. Like, I only have a budget for 15. Like, well, we got an issue. So I said, let's do this. Let's look at speech analytics and AI analytics now. And let's find out when a customer gets to us, when they start to go negative sentiment. So they're starting to get ticked off, right? So now I can tell you, hey, you don't need an 80-30. You need 80% of your calls answered within 2 minutes and 28 seconds. And that, for the majority, will still keep your net promoter scoring and your customer satisfaction happy. It'll keep your budget happy. We're using AI along the line. So I think that kind of answers your question, that we can definitely look at that and have an idea. We can definitely look if we're using a bot and it's operator, right? We can definitely know that as well, right? And we can get their tone of their voice with their and that's all agent and customer sentiment scoring through analytics. That is now kind of being AIized, right? So that when it gets to an agent. And the other cool thing is we'll route it to a proper agent then. We're not just going to route it to the next one in line. We'll route it to somebody who's maybe better with dealing with those type of calls. So, again, I could talk on like the AI routing and all that stuff forever, but there's just so much to it. But yes.
When you talk about getting your data and knowledge in order, uploading this information to ChatGPT, are you uploading proprietary or any sensitive information to these tools?
I mean, that's the question. I think, when we look at what we're doing, when it comes to, like, we're using all the APIs for auto QA, right? So we're sending out PII, PCI, HIPAA data. Most of the time we have it masked, right? If it's PCI, if it's HIPAA, right, to the large language models, and they're SOC 2 compliant. We're doing all that. Like, I feel pretty comfortable with doing that. Now on the desktop version, right? If I'm just going to kind of do something for myself a little bit, you maybe have to be like what you're kind of talking about, be a little bit more careful because it can train off that data, anything that you use on the desktop. But if you have any kind of programming at all, like you can create basically kind of a little, I guess, a program, right? Or have someone do that to be able to take that data, right, and kind of create your own kind of personal GPT that's a little bit more protected. But yes, I mean, I think you're okay, but again, understanding that it can, if I'm using desktop stuff, it can, that's the stuff that they're training off of. If you're using the API stuff, right, then they're not training off of that.
Is that subscription versus non-subscription?
Good question. I'm not sure on the no,
Okay.
because they're still going to train off your desktop stuff. It's more the developer using the APIs, using the connectivity from kind of your programs to the large language models and kind of doing that automatically. Well, I can talk to you more about that kind of. All right, I'm sorry. Thank you guys, everybody. That was awesome.